Hello and welcome back to part 4b of Project Rio, right here on youtube.com/Wi-Fi Sheep with me, Tom. In part A, we looked at adding an Atari 2600 style joystick and connector, the DB9 standard, to our Project Rio build. I've got mine here, it's still on the desk and it's more or less still together. A couple of floating boards that we kind of need to think about how we might tie this all together in either a case or just a piece of board or something. But for now, this is where we got to. So we're powered from an 8-bit AVR. This is a Mega 2560. We have an original Raspberry Pi Model 1, which is acting purely as a video terminal. That's all it's doing. It's interpreting USB and outputting video. It's running a piece of software called PyGFX, which is bare metal. There's no Linux operating system and it's acting purely as a graphics video terminal. And then we have this breadboard with a voltage shifter because we're having to shift between 5-volt logic over here, 3.3 logic over here. We also have a buzzer or speaker, and we have a micro SD card reader because we're loading files on and off micro SD card. And now we've added this DB9 connector directly to the Arduino board. And with that, we're able to plug in an Atari style joystick. I say Atari style, it's not an actual Atari one, it's a Chinese clone, but that's perfectly good enough for what we're doing. Just any controller that's compatible with the original Atari 2600 system is absolutely fine for use with Project Rio. Before I go any further, I am really hoping to bring Project Rio and the new RioShell, which is the subject of today's video, along to this year's Retro Computer Festival happening in Cambridge, England. Head over to their website now. Details are on screen and in the links to this video. It's happening on Saturday the 9th and Sunday the 10th of November 2024, and it is billed as the biggest yet, the largest retro computer exhibition in the UK. It's going to be fantastic, and it will be fantastic to meet you in person. I'm going to be there with my content for both days. However, and I keep saying this, please, if you are intending of visiting, and I really hope you are intending of visiting, please pre-book a ticket now. There's no guarantee you'll get in if you just show up on the day. Pre-book tickets only. We think this is probably going to be heavily oversubscribed, but it's going to be absolutely amazing. So I'm going to be there for both days. It's Saturday the 9th, Sunday the 10th of November 2024. That's the Retro Computer Festival 2024 happening at the Centre for Computer History in Cambridge, England. Details are in the description to this video. Now, last time I showed you a new suite of software that I had written and uploaded to the private Google Drive attached to the Project Rio Patreon. Now, just before I carry on, just to say, if you're actually looking for the main source code, if you need to update your main source code or your kernel for the Project Rio Basic, it's not in the folder. It's actually attached as a separate download to the posting inside Patreon. So just watch that. It's at the bottom underneath the link to where you go for the Google Drive. However, everything else is here on the Google Drive, including a new folder here called RioShell. And inside is test programs and a new graphical user shell, which was going to be called RioOS, but I've now decided for the moment it's going to be known as RioShell. And this is version 002 alpha, a very early demonstration alpha quality program, but it is now official software for the Project Rio system and build that maybe you're doing at home right now. What you need to do is take the SD card out of the system. That's not the Raspberry Pi one, that's the one on the breadboard, and copy these files over to the main directory. Don't put the folder just in the SD card, that won't work. Project Rio can't read folders, so it needs to see all the files on the root parent directory. So just copy these files. It doesn't matter if you have other data on there, just copy these files and put them on the SD card. Put the SD card back in the machine, and you need to either power cycle or reset the system in order for it to see the SD card. Once you've done that, you can power back up and you should have the boot screen like this. Now, for this version, that's 002 alpha of RioShell, you need to be running kernel 5.7.1, advertised as the mega build. If you are running anything earlier than that, this won't work. So you need to update and reflash from the Arduino IDE using the sketch file provided in that bottom link on Patreon that I've just said, because you need to bring your kernel up to this version number 5.7.1. Now, I'm also aware at the moment in 5.7.1 with the SD card loaded, and mine hasn't said SD card fail, which means the SD card has loaded, you should be able to type files and it should show you the contents of the SD card. However, if you do that at the moment, you get that. And I am very aware that that's broken, and I am very aware that that needs to be fixed. So I am on it, and I will get that sorted. So at the moment you are blind, you need to just know which files are where. Now, last time we tested the joystick by bringing up a program, and I can show you that again by going chain joy.bas, and that actually brings up a RioShell program in a RioShell window, but it can run outside of RioShell. And this was for testing our joystick, and that works absolutely fine. I'm going to hit escape for basic. There we go, and we've broken back into basic. What we're going to do now is we're actually going to load up RioShell for the first time, and I'll give you a quick tour of what's available and how this works. A word of warning, this is still extremely flickery, so if you are photosensitive, photo epilepsy, something like that, you may need to look away. Apologies for this. I will be fixing this in an update. I know what I want to do to fix this. Just for now, as things stand, it's very, very flickery. Anyway, with that said, we can now go chain Rio, just Rio on its own, and this brings us into a pre-boot screen. You'll also notice that Project Rio systems are actually now able to drop the resolution, so we can have 640 by 480, and I think this is 320 by 240 pixels, so we can reduce the resolution, and it brings everything, makes everything look larger, but we've actually dropped the resolution. So this is just a warning message explaining about the flickering images. This, as I said, is something I will fix very shortly, so I think this is going to be an issue only for 0.0.2 alpha. Do we want to continue? We're going to say yes, we do. So it's 1 for yes, and this is RioShell. If you've watching any of my live streams or have seen this before, then you'll know you've seen this before. This is a slightly updated version of a very crude graphic user interface at the moment, but it is all running natively. It's all written in BASIC, and it's running natively on the Project Rio hardware. So I remind you, an 8-bit AVR Arduino microcontroller is actually driving this. And this is also why we need the joystick to move the cursor. Again, warning, this is going to be horribly flickery, but I can move the arrow using the joystick back and forth, and I can actually click on buttons, so I can go to system info, system info, there we go, and it will tell you that this is the August 2024 build. Gives you the kernel that you're actually running, that's the firmware kernel for the basic, and which version of RioShell this is, as well as an updated copyright for wifisheep.co.uk. Click OK. There's a couple of other tools on here now. So we have color test that you've seen before, and if you just hit fire, that takes you back. You'll notice if I scroll up here, you'll notice that there's two coordinates, that's X and Y, of the cursor. Those are staying there for the moment. They used to be down the bottom, but they're now staying up there just for now. So you can actually track on screen where the cursor is. That's useful for development, but again, we'll put that in a tidier place in an update. Joystick will just load that joystick that you've seen. And again, a lot of this stuff will actually run outside of RioShell. And if I hit Q, might just tap Q a few times. There we go. It will actually exit back to the shell. Key code. will actually tell you the ASCII value. There's a slight graphics glitch there, but in green it shows you the numeric ASCII value of each key that you press. So you need that for in-key statements in BASIC. So Q is 113, spacebar is 323, and it will also test which keys are actually seen and available to the basic kernel, because not every key on the keyboard is actually mapped, unfortunately, and that's slightly out of my control. That's more to do with how the PyGFX driver drives what it can see. And to exit that, we hit fire, and that reloads us back into RioShell. The final option at the moment in this very early version of RioShell is the demo reel, which just runs the multiple lines random program. And again, all these can actually run separately. They're not all requiring RioShell at the moment. The numbers, by the way, at the top are just where it tries to draw occasionally off screen. There's a slight glitch, so it just reports back as a off-site figure. It can't draw things outside of the actual perimeter of the space, hence why you occasionally get numbers coming up in the serial. And again, fire on the joystick will bring us back. So that's fundamentally RioShell at the moment. I appreciate it's very simple, but it's early days, but it is the start of some software, some official software for this platform, and also a graphical user interface for a future Project Rio machine. Now, as mentioned, I do fully intend to do a number of major updates, and also want to try and build this into more of a customizable, usable space. See it as not only something visually interesting, but also as a sort of assistant development toolkit, if you like. So that's why we're having like the color charts, joystick testing, key code, mapping, that kind of thing. So for writing programs, you actually have little utilities already on the computer that you can actually get the answers to what you need a lot quicker. So that's kind of where I'm going with it. Again, it's early days, and remember, you're doing this on a machine that you've actually built yourself out of parts. So yes, it's a bit glitchy and flickery, and I really do need to sort out that cursor flicker, which is again on my to-do list, and I hope to have that sorted real soon. Anyway, I really hope you found that interesting. If you want to have a play yourself and you haven't joined our Patreon, then where have you been? You need to join our Patreon and join the Project Rio tier. All details and prices are on screen now. If you haven't done so already, please do consider liking and subscribing to us here on Wi-Fi Sheep. Don't forget the playlists for both Project Rio and our previous series, Tiny Basic Computers, are all still available, so you can go all the way back and watch how this project has developed over the last 3 to 4 years. And also, we have a dedicated Facebook group for Tiny Basic Computers and Project Rio, and that can be found at facebook.com/groups/WFS Tiny Basic. Links to that are also in the description to this video. Hope to see you real soon, and maybe see you in person in Cambridge this November. Details for the Retro Computer Festival again are in the description to this video. Thank you so much for your company, and I hope to see you real soon right here on the channel. Until next time, bye for now.